Tale of the Sun and Moon by Megan Slime. Episode 13, Wounded, Part 2. Survivors. 34 AG, Earth Kingdom. Si Wong Desert. Holding Nietzsche in her arms, Leanna walks across the various sand dunes of the vast Si Wong Desert with Taki at her side. Still badly wounded and bleeding from his right shoulder, Bryan sits on Isla walking behind them.
That was quite the battle back there.
It certainly was, but you handled it really well. Your earthquakes definitely helped win that fight.
Well, your inspiring words really made a difference. I finally started to embrace my bending. I don't feel nearly as afraid of it as I used to. I still hate all the fighting, but at least now I can use my earthbending to stop it.
Especially with your earthquakes. Such a unique and powerful ability.
Speaking of special bending abilities, have you always been able to superheat water like that?
I suppose I've always had the ability, but only just discovered it not too long ago.
I wonder if it comes from your dual waterbending and firebending bloodlines.
That's definitely crossed my mind. Seems to be the best explanation for the ability.
They continue on in silence for a few minutes until Taki realizes Bryan hasn't said anything for a while.
You know, Bryan, we really should stop so I can heal your wound. We've gone out plenty far in the desert from the Fire Nation troops.
Taki and Leanna keep walking as they wait for a response from Bryan, but one never comes. Glancing at one another uneasily, Taki and Leanna stop and turn back. They both gasp as Bryan slumps forward and suddenly falls sideways off of Isla's back and into the sand below.
Bryan!
The two girls run over to Bryan, who lies in the sand, clutching his bleeding shoulder tightly. Barely conscious and pale-skinned, Bryan breathes shallowly. He moans quietly as Taki gently rolls him onto his back.
This is bad. It looks like he's lost a lot of blood.
Can you heal him?
Yes, but is there any way you can make some solid ground for us?
I can try. I haven't really bended sand that much before.
Exhaling, Leanna places her hands into the sand beside Bryan and twists them slowly. Gradually, the sand beneath them becomes more solid.
It's not that sturdy, but it's the best I can do.
Thanks, Leanna. Anything is better than sand.
Taki looks back down at Bryan.
First, we should remove his shirt and stop the bleeding.
With Leanna's help, Taki gently sits Bryan up so that they can remove his outer tunic and undershirt. As they set him down again, both girls gasp at the sight of countless long burn scars shaped like whiplashes covering his chest and arms. Taki and Leanna exchange glances.
Okay. Leanna, I want you to take Bryan's shirt and press it firmly against his wound.
Leanna does so, which causes Bryan to wince and gasp painfully.
Just hold the pressure there while I heal it.
Bending some of the water from her pouches, Taki places her hands beside Leanna's. The water begins to glow with healing energy as Taki stares down intently at a frail, painting Bryan.
Hang on, Bryan. Stay with us.
34 AG, Earth Kingdom. Near the bottom of a tall rock formation, Faye sits and tightens her bowstring. Chang and his soldiers are finally all recovered from their previous battle. Inhaling sharply, Chang strides over to Faye.
I cannot believe you let the target and his companions escape. You were supposed to take him out.
I wounded him, which means they'll be traveling slower and easier to track.
With her bow, Faye points to a few drops of blood in the dirt leading towards the desert.
Finding and taking out the lightning shadow will be on you, Faye. Just know that if we don't find and stop him, you will be...
Chang stops talking when Faye suddenly looks up and stands. He turns just in time to see Ryoko land before them and Keita leap off of him. Chang swallows as she approaches them. He gives a quick, low bow.
General Keita, how goes your search for Hakan?
It seems my son doesn't wish to be found by anyone. Either of you haven't seen him recently, have you?
Chang shakes his head as Faye glances down. Narrowing her eyes, Keita begins pacing in front of the soldiers and staring each of them down with a stern gaze.
And what is the status of your mission to incarcerate or eradicate the lightning shadow?
He seems to have evaded us once again, but he's now injured and headed into the Si Wong Desert.
With deadly eyes, Keita walks back over to Chang and stares into his quivering eyes.
Understand this, Captain Chang. Either you and your troops come back from that barren wasteland with the lightning shadow dead or alive, or you don't come back at all.
Wide-eyed, Chang swallows and gives a hesitant nod of his head. A lifeless smirk stretches across Kata's face.
Good.
She glances over at Faye.
As for you, Yuyan Archer, you're coming with me to find Hakan.
Ma'am,
You're clearly the most capable one here who can help me track him down. Do you not wish to find your dear captain?
Faye inhales slowly and gives a small bow.
If it is the will of the High General, I will accompany you and do my best to aid you in finding Captain Hakan.
Excellent. Come along, Yuyan.
Without so much as a second glance at Chang and his soldiers, Kata turns and moves back over to Ryoko. She climbs onto his back and nods for Faye to join her. Breathing deeply and quietly, Faye walks past Chang and mounts the magnificent red dragon.
Time to fly. Ryoko!
With that, Ryoko pushes off the ground and soars swiftly upwards. Somewhat wide-eyed and breathless, Faye clutches tightly onto the hard scales as Kata continues staring forward with focused eyes.
Now, which direction do you think Hakan would have gone?
Faye thinks for a moment before answering.
West, I believe.
With a low roar, Ryoko carries Kata and Faye swiftly through the air westward. 34 AG, Earth Kingdom, Siwang Desert. With a small groan, Raiden slowly opens his eyes to find Taki and Liana sitting nearby with Ayla and Michi lying beside them. When the girls notice he's awake, both of them scramble over to him.
He's awake!
How are you feeling, Raiden?
Ignoring them, Raiden painfully sits up to find his shirt and tunic loosely on. He reaches up his left hand to discover that his right shoulder is now bandaged.
You lost a lot of blood, but Taki healed you.
We should get moving.
Wincing, Raiden carefully stands and staggers down the sand dune. Taki rushes over to him when he almost falls.
You're in no condition to travel. At least keep riding on Isla.
With a quiet exhale, Raiden slowly nods his head. He allows Taki to help him onto Isla's back once again. Isla stands and reaches her neck back to lick Raiden on the face. After a short pat on her head, he wipes his cheek and faces away.
Now we just have to find the library. I believe it's in the heart of the desert.
Liana and Michi lead the group as they continue on the rolling sand dunes.
This trip could be a great opportunity to practice sandbending more, Liana.
Maybe. But I tend to favor solid earth, if you know what I mean.
Taki glances over at Raiden, who stares forward, trying not to show how much pain he is in. Each of Isla's steps seems to rip through his whole shoulder and arm with a sharp pain.
Focus on the mission, Taki.
I am. I haven't stopped thinking about finding my father since the moment I found out he's alive. But you're also a part of this mission. I can't finish this mission without you.
Raiden glances over at Taki and keeps staring down at the ground.
Hey, you two. I think I see something up ahead. Some sort of tall structure.
Okay, let's check it out.
Back a ways in the desert, Hakan stumbles wearily across the vast, sandy abyss.
Can't believe I was stupid enough to come into this forsaken wasteland.
Hakan glances down at Faye's arrow gripped in his hand. Using some fire, he breaks off the shaft and drops it to the sand below. He keeps the arrowhead in his hand and tosses it up a few times to catch. Quickly growing tired of this, Hakan shoves the arrowhead into his pocket. Looking up, Hakan stops when he sees a thin vertical shape in the distance.
What is that?
Rushing forward to the top of a tall sand dune, Hakan squints in the sunlight to see several figures approaching the tall spire. He tightens his hands into fists.
Finally, I found them.
Over at the tall structure, Taki, Raiden, Liana, Michi, and Ayla approach the stone spire in slight awe.
This can't be it.
Maybe, just maybe, the entire library is buried underneath the sand. There seems to be a window up there. Perhaps we can get in that way.
There's only one way to find out.
Taki turns to Raiden, who moves to get off of Ayla.
Raiden, I think you should wait out here with Isla. You really need to rest, and we shouldn't leave Isla out here all alone.
We have no idea what this library holds. There may be danger inside.
With staff in hand, Raiden painfully slides off of Ayla's back and walks over to them.
It's a library. How dangerous could it possibly be?
Besides, Taki and I can watch each other's backs.
Exactly. Everything will be fine.
Raiden doesn't look convinced, but he slowly moves to the stone pillar and leans against it for support.
Fine. But I'm coming in if you're not back within the hour.
Deal.
All we gotta do is get up there.
Leanna moves to the pillar and slams her fist into it to bend various stones out slightly. With Michi secured on the top of her shoulders, Leanna carefully scales the stones up to the open window. With one last look over at Raiden, Taki quickly follows after her. Isla moves next to Raiden and forces him to sit down by shoving her face into his stomach.
Okay, I get it. Rest.
Pleased with herself, Isla lies down and curls up next to Raiden in the shade of the pillar. Inside, Leanna ties a rope to the window so that her and Taki can climb down to the long bridge below. Wide-eyed, both of them gaze around at the endless rows and shelves of books.
It's incredible.
Michi purrs in agreement. Taki is about to comment when a massive black owl appears from the shadows and approaches them.
2 humans and a pygmy puma. How intriguing.
You must be Wan Shi Tong, the spirit who brought this library to our world.
That I am. I assume you two are here to peruse my collection.
Oh, yes, Great Spirit.
And to find clues to help us find someone.
Then you are in the right place. However, I do request a donation of knowledge to keep here in the library.
I really only have this.
Leanna pulls out a small journal from her satchel.
This is everything I've written about taming and training pygmy pumas. I don't really need it anymore since Michi is so well behaved now.
Smiling, Leanna scratches behind Michi's ear, causing her to purr wildly.
I suppose that will do.
Swiping his wing towards her hand, Wang Shi Tong takes the journal from Leanna and then turns to Taki, who stares up at him with wide eyes.
I don't really have any written knowledge with me, but I could write a short journal entry on a unique waterbending technique.
Unique waterbending technique. Such as?
Well, I have the ability to superheat water when I bend it.
Interesting. That seems more like a natural-born gift than an acquired technique. Even still, that is knowledge in its own way. There is some empty parchment this way.
Taki, Leanna, and Michi follow the towering owl down the hall to a small room with several tables of ink and paper.
There has only been one other human that requested to write down his own knowledge to add to the collection.
Who's that?
A blacksmith with a scarred hand.
29 AG, Earth Kingdom, Wan Shi Tong's library. From the open windows, Tayo scales down a long rope into the library. Wan Shi Tong quickly approaches him.
And who are you, human?
I'm just a simple blacksmith wanting to search through your vast collection in hopes of finding some direction and understanding in my life.
You may find that here, but knowledge comes from knowledge. What do you have to offer as an addition to my collection?
I have no written knowledge with me, but I am more than willing to spend the time documenting everything I've learned about blacksmithing into a book.
Very well. Follow me.
With a satisfied smile, Tayo follows after Wan Shi Tong. 34 AG, Earth Kingdom, Wan Shi Tong's library. Wide-eyed, Taki takes a step towards Wan Shi Tong.
My father! That blacksmith is my father! He was actually here!
There does seem to be a resemblance between you both. Your father was here for nearly a year working on his blacksmithing book.
Did he happen to say where he was going next when he left?
No, he didn't.
Oh,
But he might have written something in his book about his next destination.
really? Can I see it?
This way.
With an excited smile, Taki glances over at Leanna and Michi, as all of them follow Wan Shi Tong down another hallway. 34 AG, Earth Kingdom, Siwang Desert. Just as Raiden feels as though he's about to nod off, he notices a small figure moving forward towards him and Isla. Gripping his staff, Raiden uses it to stand up and step out to get a better view. His eyes grow wide when he realizes Hakan is headed straight for him as he dashes through the sand. Once he's within earshot of Raiden, Hakan suddenly slows to a stop and stares back at his brother with savage eyes. With his same blank expression, Raiden narrows his eyes at Hakan.
We meet again, Rai.
Raiden says nothing. For the first time, Hakan notices Raiden favoring his bandaged right shoulder.
That's right.
Faye wounded you during that last battle. Must be pretty painful. You certainly won't be moving at lightning speed with that injury.
Has the disgraced captain come to finish his mission?
Hearing this causes Hakan's eye to twitch slightly and his hands to ignite with flames.
Something like that.
Just then, Isla wakes up, sees Hakan, and immediately stands to growl ferociously at him. Raiden holds up his hand to her.
Isla, stand down.
Hesitantly, she does so.
What's the matter, Rai? Not going to fight me since you know you'd lose?
You and I were both trained to never give up and never give in. If we were to fight right now, only one of us will walk away. Is that what you want, Khan?
Suddenly speechless, Hakan swallows slowly as he stares back at his brother with wide eyes. He glances down at the fire surrounding his hands. Balling his flaming hands into fists, Hakan looks back up at Raiden.
It almost wouldn't be right fighting you when you're wounded. It wouldn't be a fair match.
With a sharp inhale, Hakan thrusts his fist out to shoot a fireball right next to Raiden in the sand.
Still, you are a mercenary, a killer, a monster. You might just need to be put down.
He fires another flame burst on the other side of Raiden, who doesn't flinch.
The infamous lightning shadow, huh? It's quite ironic that you can't make your own lightning. Here, brother, let me give you some!
With that, Hakan quickly weaves his arms through the air to supercharge his fingertips with energy. Pointing his fingers forward, Hakan unleashes a brilliant blue lightning attack straight at Raiden, who swiftly rolls out of the way. However, he loses his balance slightly because of his pained shoulder. Because of the loud and bright lightning attack, Isla bolts behind the stone pillar to hide. Using Raiden's brief loss of balance to his advantage, Hakan spins and sends a wide kick of fire racing towards Raiden, who counters by twirling his staff swiftly in front of him to dissipate the flame.
That won't work this time.
Narrowing his rage-filled eyes, Hakan unleashes two more fire blasts with his fists, which break Raiden's spinning barrier and sends him crashing to the sand on his back. Hakan lunges forward on top of his brother and grasps Raiden's staff with both hands. The twins struggle against one another with the staff between them. Then Raiden kicks his legs out to thrust Hakan off of him backwards over Raiden's head. As Hakan lands several feet away with a small groan, Raiden gets up painfully as he clutches his shoulder with one hand and holds his staff in the other. Exhaling deeply, Hakan gazes up at his brother with intense eyes.
What's the matter, Rai? Still in pain?
Slowly, Raiden lowers his hand from his shoulder.
My whole existence has been nothing but pain. I feel none of it now.
With that, Raiden dashes forward and slams his staff downward at Hakan, who quickly rolls out of the way. He stands with a wide kick to send another wave of flame surging towards Raiden, who swiftly ducks out of the way. To counter, Raiden slams his staff into Hakan's side, but he manages to catch it with his arms. Using this to his advantage, Hakan raises his foot to shoot a small inferno blast into Raiden. This causes him to lose his grip on the staff and stumble backwards.
You weren't the only one who suffered, Rai.
Hakan races forward and wildly swings Raiden's staff at him. Narrowing his focus, Raiden quickly dodges each of Hakan's staff swipes. With rising rage, Hakan ignites the staff with fire. Suddenly, Raiden spins downward with a low kick, knocking Hakan to the sand. Just as Raiden lunges at him, Hakan quickly smashes the end of the staff into Raiden's head. Staggering backwards, Raiden clutches his now bleeding temple. With one last glance over at his brother, Raiden collapses to the sand, unconscious. Standing, Hakan tosses the staff to the sand and moves towards his brother.
After all these years, I've finally beaten you, brother.
As Hakan approaches his knocked-out twin, his gaze drifts down to Raiden's hidden blade secured on his lower back. In a daze, Hakan's hand reaches out slowly towards it, but stops mid-air. Wide-eyed, Hakan stands breathless. His trance is broken when Isla suddenly barks and dashes between the twins.
Easy, girl. He's all yours. I've still got unfinished business with your master.
As Isla stands over Raiden and growls menacingly at Hakan, he quickly backs up to the library tower. With a quick sideways glance at Raiden, Hakan swiftly climbs up the stone tower and glances through the window. Using the already tied rope, Hakan propels down to the bridge below. Glancing around briefly, Hakan quickly makes his way through the vast hallways and shelves of the library.
How am I going to find anyone in this maze?
Eventually, Hakan stops when he hears faint talking in the distance. Quietly, he rounds the corner of a tall shelf and moves towards a balcony overlooking a large room filled with scattered tables and books. His eyes grow wide when he sees Taki sitting down with a book very intently. Leanna strolls about the room reading another book as Michi chases after her.
How is it, Taki?
Amazing. He wrote with such passion.
Carefully, Hakan inches forward and gazes down at Taki with narrowed eyes. Steadily, his breath quickens as he slowly staggers backwards into a bookshelf.
Why did I save her? Why would I risk everything for this girl?
Suddenly agitated, Hakan's hands ignite with intense flames that instantly catch the shelf and nearby books on fire. Wide-eyed and frozen, Hakan watches as the fire starts spreading quickly through the massive bookshelf.
Who dares defile my collection?
Whirling around, Hakan gasps when he sees the giant owl spirit suddenly above him. Wan Shitong quickly flaps his enormous wings to extinguish the flames.
You shall pay greatly for this, human.
In a frenzied panic, Hakan takes off running down a long row of shelves. With the great spirit animal chasing him, Hakan dashes down various pathways to try and escape. 34 AG, Earth Kingdom, Siwang Desert. With a low groan, Raiden opens his eyes to find Isla licking his face gently and nudging his side with her head. All at once, Raiden's eyes grow wide as he sits up suddenly.
Hakan!
Instantly wincing, Raiden gently touches his injured head. Still watching out for his wounded shoulder, Raiden slowly stands and stumbles towards the library pillar.
Wait here, Isla.
Isla paces and whines as Raiden painfully scales the stone tower to the window. Faye scans the vast Earth Kingdom terrain below as Keita directs Ryoko high in the sky.
And you're certain Hakan would have traveled west to Union?
Yes, General. I believe he would have returned to the only thing he's ever known, the Fire Nation.
With a slight raise of her eyebrow, Keita glances back at Faye for a brief moment, and then looks forward again.
You've served my son for quite some time, haven't you? How long has it been now?
3 years now.
You seem to have grown quite fond of him.
Faye looks down and says nothing.
As such, I'm sure you'll do everything in your power to do what's best for him. Hakan reclaiming his honorable military position with our great nation is what's best for him. We better remember that as we continue searching.
Yes, General.
With a smirk, Keita glances down looking for any sign of Hakan as they soar above the Earth Kingdom lands. 34 AG, Earth Kingdom, Wan Shitong's library. With Michi asleep on her lap, Leanna sits on the floor with her back against the wall as she continues reading. Meanwhile, at one of the tables, Taki sits reading with her eyes glued to the page. From behind her, a hand reaches out and suddenly grabs her shoulder. With a loud gasp, Taki turns around to find a breathless Raiden standing behind her with focused eyes.
Raiden, you scared me.
We need to leave. Now.
What? Why?
You'll never believe what we found, Raiden.
She turns back to the book in awe.
It turns out my father was here and spent almost a year writing his own book on blacksmithing. Here, see this?
Taki.
Taki stops and turns back at Raiden with a slightly stunned expression.
Hakan is here. In the library somewhere.
Oh no.
Hurriedly, Leanna stands and carries Michi over to them.
Seriously? How did he find us here?
He must have followed us into the desert. Regardless, we're leaving.
Taki looks back down at her father's book and quickly flips to the last few pages.
Not until I find out where my father went after he left here. Without that, we have no idea where to travel next.
Be quick about it. It could be anywhere.
As Raiden looks around the room, Leanna notices the blood stain on his temple.
Wait, Raiden, you have a head injury now. Did you already fight against Hakan? Is that how he got in here?
It makes no difference. Our priority is finding the next destination of the target and getting out.
Found it!
Taki carefully rips out the last page, folds it into her bag, and then quickly closes the book. She stands and leans closer to Raiden to study his wound.
Are you sure we should tend to your head wound?
We're going. Now.
Just as Raiden turns to go, he stops when Wan Shitong suddenly appears in the doorway.
You infernal humans aren't going anywhere.
Great Spirit, why won't you let us go?
Slowly, Wan Shitong narrows his black eyes and raises his enormous wing to point straight at Raiden.
That vile firebender burnt a section of my collection.
But Raiden's not a bender.
I never forget a face.
His face. Wait, Hakan!
Taki takes a step towards the great owl before them.
This isn't the human you're looking for. The firebender you saw is his twin brother.
I will not be so easily fooled, human.
In a flurry, Wan Shi Tong bursts forward towards Raiden.
No, wait! You got the wrong person!
Wan Shi Tong reaches Raiden and thrusts his beak at him. Raiden quickly jumps out of the way and crashes onto the floor. Just as Wan Shi Tong turns to dart at Raiden again, Taki water whips him in the face to push him off course.
Leave him alone!
I can't believe we're fighting a giant spirit.
Widening her stance, Leanna launches a part of the stone wall into Wan Shi Tong, which distracts him long enough for Raiden to dash past him. Then the three of them, with Michi, run towards the door and turn down a long hallway of shelved books. Wan Shi Tong surges after them at top speed. Realizing his prey is about to turn another corner, the great owl reaches out his wing to push over several bookshelves. Besides having their exit blocked, Raiden, Taki, Leanna, and Michi are all pinned down by various books and the shelves.
You cannot escape. This is the end for you, destructive humans.
All of them struggle to get free of the heavy shelves as Wan Shi Tong ominously moves towards them and raises his foot high with his talons aimed at Raiden.
No, wait! Please!
Don't do it.
Desecrating my collection is punishable by death.
Just as Wan Shi Tong is about to cut through Raiden with his talons, a giant fireball soars through the air and hits the owl in the back. Everyone turns to see Hakan standing at the end of the hallway.
Don't waste your time with them. I'm the one you want. The fire demon.
With that, Hakan ignites the ground and shelves near him on fire and then bolts around the corner, disappearing out of view. Without hesitation, Wan Shi Tong swiftly flies after him. The gust of wind from his fast pursuit extinguishes the flames instantly.
Did Hakan just help us?
Well, he already saved you twice before.
Taki glances over at Raiden, who finally manages to free himself from the bookshelves by using his staff to prop one up. He proceeds to help Taki and Leanna out as well. Michi leaps onto Leanna's back and shoulders.
Let's go.
Raiden starts climbing over the bookshelves.
But what about Hakan?
Raiden stops but doesn't look back.
He's made his choices. Now I must pay the price.
So what? You're just going to abandon your brother? Wan Shi Tong will kill him.
With a quiet exhale, Raiden looks down.
Hakan can take care of himself.
Taki looks down as Leanna starts following Raiden over the following bookshelves.
He started this whole mess anyway. Leave the firebender to fend for himself.
Silently, Taki follows the others. In another part of the library, Hakan races through the endless tall bookshelves with Wan Shi Tong close on his tail. Narrowing his gaze, the great owl suddenly slashes one of his long feet at his prey. One of his talons manages to slice into Hakan's side, causing him to stumble and crash into one of the bookshelves.
You're mine now, firebender.
Wanna bet?
As Wan Shi Tong raises his head in preparation for a beak attack, Hakan does a quick spin kick to send a powerful flame attack hurtling towards the owl. Despite the piercing pain from his bleeding side, Hakan turns and sprints down another row of bookshelves as fast as he can. As he runs, Hakan sets several bookshelves on fire to distract and hinder Wan Shi Tong. Eventually, Hakan realizes Wan Shi Tong is a fair distance behind him and temporarily out of sight. He quickly ducks into a smaller room and dives under a long table in the shadowed corner. Breathless and clutching his side, Hakan sits and listens as Wan Shi Tong soars by the room and keeps searching elsewhere. A crooked grin appears on Hakan's face.
Take that, oh great spirit.
Hakan gives a small chuckle, which quickly fades into a low groan. Glances down at his bleeding side and tries to slow his pulse and breathing. 34 AG, Earth Kingdom, Siwang Desert. Late into the evening, Taki, Raiden, Leanna, and Michi have finally made it outside of the library. As soon as Isla sees Taki, she runs over to her and shoves her head into Taki's hands. Taki smiles and pets her. Leanna stretches her arms as Michi rubs on her legs. Raiden stands off to the side using his staff as a slight support.
It's good to see you too, girl. I'm sure you were lonely out here, except when you had Raiden.
Taki glances over at Raiden with furrowed brows.
I know you hate me asking this, but how are your injuries? I should probably do some healing.
We have neither the time nor the resources for that. You have limited water, which we need to conserve for drinking, being in this desert. As such, we need to get out of this wasteland of sin as quick as possible. We'll travel through the night and rest in daylight when it's hottest.
With that, Raiden moves to Isla and climbs onto her back with a slightly pained expression on his face. With a brief glance at one another, Taki and Leanna climb up behind Raiden. Michi leaps into Leanna's lap.
So where's our next destination?
Taki quickly pulls out the page from her father's book and opens it up to glance over again.
At the end of my father's book, he mentioned how much he appreciates all the skills he gained from his parents. Then he goes on to talk about the importance of one's roots, and how home will always be where the heart is.
With a bright smile, Taki looks up.
I believe my father went home from here.
And where's that?
He grew up in a small village called Shujing on one of the Fire Nation Islands.
So, we need to go west then?
Without a word, Raiden urges Isla to start walking in a specific direction.
Why am I not surprised you know exactly which way to go?
When you travel as much as I do, you learn to always know your bearings.
With a shrug, Taki glances back at Leanna, who smiles back at her with a small eye roll. Taki returns her smile. The three of them continue on in silence for a short while as Isla trudges across the sand dunes. Eventually, Taki looks down in thought. She leans to the side to try and look Raiden in the eye.
Do you think Hakan made it out okay?
Raiden takes a pause before answering.
Yes, he's a survivor.
Way back at the library stone pillar, Hakan weakly climbs down the stones with pained breaths. Near the bottom, he loses his grip and falls to the sand below with a loud moan. He lies there for several minutes, clutching his side as it surges with pain. Panting hard, his gaze drifts up, and he sees the tracks of Isla leading off to the west. Narrowing his eyes, Hakan slowly pushes himself up while wincing in excruciating pain. Gripping his bleeding side, he stands and staggers forward, following the tracks westward.
Thank you for listening to A Tale of the Sun and Moon by Megan Sly. This has been episode 13, Wounded, Part 2, Survivors. Voice talents included Michaela Case as the narrator, Shreya Bunce as Taki, Joshua Malley as Tayo, Alec Leonard as Hakan, Dawson Elke as Raiden and Wang Shitong, Megan Sly as Faye, Mitch Geiken as Chang, Abby Day as Kada, and Felicia Nicole as Leanna.